It could get worse, right? Anyways, for this one here, I just want to remind you, these ones I just quickly make up for you to be able to have something to go off of when it comes to domain and range. Most of our graphs are going to have scales, all of that, right? But this is just to help you out. So in this case, when it comes to domain, if you use set notations, it's just all real numbers. If you use interval notation, you have both infinities, and it's a negative infinity, positive infinity, round brackets. Okay, so infinities are never included. For the range, in this case, right, this is the highest y value right here, which is 20, and these legs go down to negative infinity. So for the range, I go y is less than or equal to 20, if you chose to answer this way. If you went with interval, you would go negative infinity to positive 20, like that. Okay, so smallest, largest, always. The order matters. So I'll give you 1 mark for the domain, 1 mark for the range, whichever method you chose, as long as it's done correctly. For today, if you didn't get the brackets right, we'll take off half a mark every time that happens. So I'm assuming the values are where they're supposed to be. Okay. So this is right. Both legs have arrowheads, so it just keeps on going, right? It doesn't have a stop. The only the only point where it stops is here, because it turns, right? This quadratic turns there. This one, for the domain, same thing as before, all real numbers, or negative infinity, positive infinity. So 1 mark for the domain. For the range, technically you have to tell me which one is which, right? So D and R, down the road, if I don't have a spot for it, you have to tell me which one is which. Otherwise, we're not sure. So for the range, in this case, y is greater than or equal to negative 200, set notation. Or you go from negative 200, that's the smallest, all the way to positive infinity, that's round. Okay, so square bracket, round bracket. So 1 mark for each again. So each one of these will have a 2 marks attached to it. Okay. So then it changes, right? So now we're going more into the word problem, context, right? So for this, my domain is 0 to 50, and my range is 0, we go down to 0 all the way to 27.3. 1 mark for each. If you chose to use interval, no problem. There it is. And this one will be 0, h, 27.3, like that. Okay, 1 mark for each. Next. Here we've got a parabola going this way, no problem, right? For the domain, I look for where does it start along the x-axis, and you keep traveling until the graph stops, and it stops at 190. So it would go like this. For the range, you go as low as 15, right? So you kind of want to find the lowest point, go to your y-axis and say, okay, it's from here to here, right? That's where the graph is found in terms of your y value. So you go from negative 15 all the way to 5 in this case. Not 0, because 0 isn't the highest, right? It actually is over here, so it's 0 to 5. And that would be 0, distance 190. This would be negative 15, height 5. Okay, so 1 mark for each there. So this page is worth 8 so far. Back side. Okay, so for the domain here, you go from 0 to 21. And range, you go from as low as 5 and as high as 19.5, right? So this would be 5 to 19.5. And again, if you use interval, This is it. And be 5, height 19.5. Okay. 2 marks for that one. And then we get to the backwards scenario. So you kind of have to picture maybe, right? Along the x, I go from 0 to 50. So you kind of want to have this in mind, right? It stops there. And then for y, you're going to go from 0 all the way to 20. So you kind of box it in at the 20 up here. So if this is just my rough copy here, right? This would work like this. So I'm going to make it a little nicer here. And as long as I see 50, 0 here, and this could be anything, it actually would be 25, 20. Why is it 25? Because the vertex is, in this case, it's halfway. So, but I'm not going to take marks off today because I haven't emphasized that. But if this is 50, and you're starting on the ground, back on the ground here, this will be 25. So that's good enough for me. If you did this, if you went from here and did one of those, okay, and you tell me that this is 50, 20, and this is 0, 20, that would also be acceptable, right? Because your graph is between 0 and 20 in terms of your y, and it's between 0 and 50 in terms of your x, so that would also be acceptable. Okay, so we don't know enough to know which way is it pointing. We'll just give you 1 mark for each on this one. And then here, 0 to 100. Okay, so I'm imagining along the x-axis to go from 0 to 100, right? And for the y, I go from -2 somewhere here to +5, right? So so something is happening there. So I can just use this one. Why not? So 0 to 100. So I could go from here, get to the 5, and then stop at 100. I could do something like that. Okay. So this is 0, -2, and this is going to be something. It doesn't matter. Something 5. As long as that is 5, and then this would be 100, 0, right? So you're kind of making sure it goes from 0 to 100, and from -2 to +5. What if you did this? You started down here -2, you go all the way to 5, and then back to -2. That is also okay, as long as you know that here you're at 100. Okay, that would also be acceptable. This is 0, -2, and this is 50, 5, right? As long as the 5 is up here. And obviously you could go the other way as well. It could be pointing up. That's fine. I'm just thinking most of you did this, most likely. So 1 mark as well for that. I would say it's kind of like all or nothing. Like if you're not making sure that your range is correct, but your x is okay, but I would still go -1. Okay. So this would bring us to 4 for this page, and 4 for this page, 8 for the front. So that gives us a total of 12. I just find making these ones by hand is much faster. Otherwise, I don't like handwritten because it just doesn't look pretty. Anyways, 12. Just make sure your name is on there. And let's pass it forward, okay?